I live in the capital of China, and something is happening right now that almost no one in the West is talking about. On September 3rd, 2025, China will hold a major military parade commemorating the 80th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. This event is the reason that I decided now is the time to talk about the past, the present, and the future. So today we're going to talk about the dark history that Japan has wiped from their textbooks and tried to cover up in general, the profound meaning of the military parade here in China, and what this all means for the future of humanity. First, we have to start with the atrocities committed by Imperial Japan during their invasion of China. Many in the West know of the Jewish Holocaust or the bombs dropped on Japan, but very few people know about the 6 weeks of literal hell that the Chinese people went through, that they endured at the hands of the Japanese. This was the Nanjing massacre, a forgotten Holocaust. I am a part of the Westerners who just didn't know. I was never taught about it in school. In fact, in America, Japan is loved. They are also wrongfully given credit for many amazing Chinese things that are in their culture. The West just doesn't know. If you want a video about stolen Chinese culture, let me know. Although Japan has tried to wipe the history of what they did in China and in Asia, they could not silence those who went through it. There were 6 decades of international silence on this matter. So the only thing that was keeping this alive in Asia was word of mouth from parents, from grandparents, stories passed down. Let me know in the comments if your parents or grandparents told you stories of what the Japanese did. Although I'm only focusing on China today, there were many other Asian countries who were terrorized, tortured, massacred, raped, and more at the hands of the Japanese. My heart goes out to all the victims. My worldview changed drastically after seeing the Chinese film Dead to Rights. This film is still playing in theaters all over the world, and I highly encourage you to go and see it. I went into the cinema one person, and I came out another. I couldn't stop thinking about what I saw. Even though the movie was terrible, I cried from the beginning to the end. What happened in real life was a million times worse. So the next week, I made a trip to Nanjing to go and see the museum for myself. Here's what I learned and saw. Before I even got into the museum, I saw tons of sculptures outside showing things that happened during the massacre. I almost turned around at this point. I couldn't handle what I was seeing. The one that was the worst to me, though, was a young child trying to breastfeed from their mother who was unresponsive. My heart was so broken, but I kept on going because I knew I needed to see more and learn more of what happened. For 6 weeks, starting in December of 1937, Nanjing, the fallen capital of China, ran red. Over 300,000 lives were lost. To put that into perspective, that's 1 life lost every 12 seconds for a span of 6 weeks. And the worst part is, this is just the number that we know about from documented individuals. I fear that the real number is much, much greater. The Japanese have claimed that this number is exaggerated, but there is literally hard evidence given by burial societies and other organizations to back this number. Many of those who they found and buried had their hands bound behind their backs. During this time, the Japanese posted flyers all over saying that if the Chinese surrendered, they would be given humane treatment by the Japanese. This was anything but the truth. What I'm about to say, I won't censor, even though it's very hard for me to talk about it. The world needs to know what happened. The Japanese held killing contests. They bayoneted infants. They forced families to do unspeakable acts on one another. They raped over 80,000 women. That's young, old, pregnant. No one was spared. Sometimes they would hunt until dawn for these women. And this didn't just happen in China. It happened all over Asia. My heart goes out to all of the women who were forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese. The stories from survivors and journalists on the ground are some of the most heartbreaking and chilling you will ever hear. How could the Japanese do something like this? They viewed Chinese people as lesser and in general just dehumanized them. And they were given the order, kill all, burn all, take all. And that's exactly what they did. The violence was so extreme, it even horrified Nazis. John Rabba, who is a hero to many Chinese people, helped to establish a safety zone in Nanjing and saved over 250,000 people. He wrote to Hitler, begging him to intervene, but he never heard back. Speaking of heroes, there are others that helped. Minnie Vautrin, an American, saved over 10,000 Chinese women and children from Japanese soldiers. She turned the Jinling College into a refugee camp. So why did the world just seemingly look away? Why is this not common knowledge? So many journalists reported on what happened, yet barely any Westerners know. America needed a strong ally in Asia to counter communism, and that ally just happened to be Japan. So they looked the other way to many of the crimes committed, and the world followed. Many in Japan were granted immunity for handing over research that were done during the live human experiments, aka torture, such as those that happened in Unit 731. This needs its own video, and most of those who participated never faced justice. First, because they were either given immunity, or second, because much of the evidence was burned. Iris Chung, another hero, broke a 6-decade-long international silence on the matter when she wrote the book, The Rape of Nanjing. This book shook the Western world, and it sent waves to Japan. Ultranationalists sent her threats because they claimed that the massacre never happened. In her book, there's a quote that if you deny the massacre, you kill twice. This is something we shouldn't forget. Some say that the Japanese have suffered enough due to the bombings, and that we should just move forward. But the victims never got that luxury. The victims deserve justice. China as a whole deserves an apology, but that has never happened. And if we don't learn from the mistakes that have been made in the past, we are doomed to repeat them. And I fear that we are seeing something very similar happening right now in the world. Let's move on to the present. What is the significance of this military parade? It's to show that the world may have forgotten, but China has not. It's a tribute to the victims, and it shows that although there is peace, there was an awful price to pay for it. And as for the date, it's very significant. Japan announced its surrender on August 15th, but soldiers were still fighting back. It wasn't until September 2nd that the fighting stopped, when a surrender document was signed on an American boat. So, China chose the 3rd as its victory day. They set their own day, not following the date that the rest of the world did. To those in China, this was the day of the end of fascist rule. To me, this is very symbolic, as China has taken history into their own hands and now will determine where the future goes. Also, it's very important to look at who China invited and who will show up. Some set to show up were victims to the Japanese, and some are new partners to China. America will not show up, so this means that no allies of the States will either. Although someone from South Korea's government will be coming, it won't be the president. Living in Beijing, I've been seeing preparations happen for this parade for quite some time. Even on the street, I saw helicopters in the sky. They had banners hanging down, and those banners said, "Peace will prevail." It's very, very important that we remember that China was never the aggressor. It's important to remember that in history, China has never been the aggressor. But as I have said in another video, that if you mess with China, they will definitely fight back, no matter how long it takes. In Chinese, that's 人不犯我,我不犯人,人若犯我,我必犯人. The Japanese invaded and occupied China for 14 years. The Chinese never gave up. The Chinese have shown that throughout history, if there are ashes, they will rise from them like a phoenix. China's parade is also showing the dedication and discipline of the soldiers. They are showing that if there is war in the future, it won't happen in China. Japan has urged other world leaders to not attend this event, claiming that there will be anti-Japanese overtones. The only messages that I'm getting from this parade are pro-memory, pro-peace, and the fact that China is not the old China anymore. Although the massacre has been backed with hard evidence, the Japanese still whitewash their textbooks, downplay the massacre, and officials visit shrines that honor war criminals. This isn't just about the past, it's about the future. As I said, not learning from history or denying it is one of the first steps towards repeating it. I'll be watching the parade marching through Beijing and thinking about the stories from the Nanjing Memorial Hall. I encourage you to watch it as well. It will be live streamed for the world to see. May the victims of all the fascists rest in peace, and may the world never know a war like this ever again.